Hello everyone, welcome to this video. So I'm sure you might be here because you are looking to learn about Sanity or use it in your projects, or it could be any other reason. For whatever reason you are here, it all points to the fact that you want to know more about Sanity. So in this video, I will do my best to show you everything you need to know to get started with Sanity. I will also show you one of the ways to query data from Sanity, which I love, and that is using Grok. So Sanity tried to reinvent the wheel a little bit by creating their own query language, which is Grok. I might say that it is worth the work they put in because it is very incredible, easy to understand, and sometimes it feels like you are writing JavaScript, regular JavaScript. I've been using Sanity for some time now, and I must say that it actually stands out in all the CMS platforms I have used so far, in my opinion. I mean, there are a few good ones, but in my opinion, Sanity stands out a little bit. It is my favorite so far. That is why I am excited to talk about it. So what is Sanity? Now, when you go to sanity.io, you'd see, but basically it is a CMS. So when I say CMS, I basically mean it is a content management system. So content management system is actually used for storing content and publishing content. With Sanity, it is highly customizable. It is very flexible. You are able to create content that are tailored to your specific needs. And I must say that Sanity also has a very good documentation as well. So you would always want to check their documentation out if you are looking for something. They have the Sanity CLI, which is a command line interface you can use to manage projects locally on your machine. So if I try to bring the command line up right now, I can enter Sanity versions, for example, like this, and then it's going to show me the versions I have installed on my PC, and it says that I have version 3.7.1, but the latest version is 3.8.2. so basically I have to maybe update my Sanity version, but I'm on version 3, which is okay. I can do Sanity help to see other commands as well. If you want to log in locally, you can do Sanity login. If you want to log out and log into like a different Sanity account, you can do Sanity logout. So you can create a new project locally by doing npm create sanity at latest, which we are going to look at shortly. Before we create a new project and start looking at like schemas and all that, I want to talk about Sanity Studio and show you what Sanity Studio can actually do. So when you go to sanity.io/studio, you are going to, if you create a project, you are going to, see your Sanity Studio projects. So for example, I have this project and this is my Sanity Studio. So I'm using this project to manage some products for an e-commerce website, which I'm going to record a tutorial about in some few weeks coming. I am using this to store the products and categories of the products. If you look at this side, I have a lot of products added here. I have some categories also added here. So Sanity Studio is an app written in React.js. It's open source. You can run it locally on your computer. The studio is also connected to a real-time content store in the cloud, which is called Content Lake. Content Lake is a cloud store somewhere, like in the cloud, yeah. And then your studio is connected to that. So all the changes you are making, it's connected to the content store in the cloud, real-time. So the studio does not actually store any data locally. Everything is connected to the cloud. So whatever changes you are making is happening real time. You can have a lot of user on one project. So because your content is connected to a cloud store, to the content lake, whenever you make the changes, immediately and instantly, all the other users of that project also see the changes, which makes collaboration very, very good using Sanity Studio. Their UI is also very easy to use. They have good plugins as well, and one of the plugins we are going to be looking at is the Vision plugin, which lets you query data from Sanity using Grok. So your changes are saved automatically, so you can go and then come back. Even if you've not published the data yet, you can go and come back and see the data as it is. Alright, so you don't need to worry about making changes and clicking save all the time. You just make the changes and it is saved automatically as draft. So when you publish, then it merges it to the original one in real time. As I mentioned, from here you have your content here. So this is where you store like documents. So I have the category schema, I have the product schema, I have the featured schema as well. And then here, based on the schema, you can create a new category. So when I click here, the schema is telling me to add a name, a slide, and an image. So when you check all my categories here, they basically have the same fields. That is the name, the slide, and then the image of that category. Alright, so I can edit, and then I can click publish. As easy as that. There is also a search field which lets you search for any data at all you have in your content. So if I enter men, it's going to bring some of the data I have added. For example, men's clothing is a category. This is a product. It has a good search field as well, so you don't need to go through like all the product and search for the ones you need. You can easily enter the name of the product here and search for it. When you come here, there's also the account option. So here you can click on invite members. So you can invite members to the project, or you can click on manage project. With collaboration, when you're doing collaboration as a team, when you click here, when you click on this three dots here, it shows you like the changes that happened recently, and then if you made any change you want to revert back to the previous change, you can actually click on this to revert changes. If any change happened recently, it's going to show you the users that made the change, the time they made the change, and if there is anything wrong and you guys want to revert back, you can actually revert it back. You can do an inspect to see how the data is represented as a raw JSON. So for example, if I click on the product, some of the fields you could create, I mean, this is a regular input field. There is a description field which looks like a text area. This is a category, so it is referencing the category the product belongs to, which is basically women's clothing. You could also have an image field. You could have this is a gallery, so if you have like multiple images, for example, if I click on one of the images which has multiple images, so you could add like gallery images for the image, for the product as well. You could also have number fields. There are a whole lot of fields you could add. So one of the fields I will show you later is the powerful block content field, which is basically a rich text editor. There are a whole lot of fields you can have in Sanity Studio to be able to add an information to your product. It has a lot of good features. So when you go to sanity.io/manage, click on one of the projects you are managing. For example, this is the name of the project. Here is a project overview. You could see that this project has 2 members. These are my 2 accounts I've added. I can actually edit any of the products using any of these accounts. When you go to the API section, there is this cross-origin access where you add the URLs here so that it will allow you to access the data from Sanity. Alright, so basically this is how the data is being represented on my front end, like on my UI. This is a project I'll be creating with the data I have in Sanity. So tutorial coming up shortly, watch out. So basically everything we've talked about. Now we have the Sanity Studio, and this is going to be where you're going to be adding your project. So the content lake is in the cloud somewhere, that is where your content is stored and accessed. So the content lake is fully managed by Sanity themselves. That is not an open source. Sanity Studio is an open source, but not the content lake. It is managed by Sanity themselves, and then you access the content lake via the Sanity API. Basically, when you make changes here, it talks to the content lake. So all the changes you make here, you publish, it goes here, and then your front-end application is going to pick the data automatically. Probably if there is any change if there is anything you want to publish from your front-end application too, it's going to publish that to the content lake. And because this and this is synced, you're also going to see the changes here. So once you make the changes here, it goes to the content lake, it updates the front end, and then your front end also sees the changes. One of the cool features I really like about Sanity version 3 is the ability to embed your studio in your application. So that is exactly what I was showing you. The studio right here is not published separately. You could publish your studio separately on Vercel or Netlify or wherever you want. You could also embed it in your projects. For example, this one is embedded in the MS by project I am creating. So you could see the you would see the URL here, msby.netlify.app, and then I have the studio route, which is showing this Sanity Studio where I can manage my product. So it is basically serving as the admin side of my application, right? So I have a link here to take me home as well, or view like the products if I've made a change and I want to see the changes. So I'm going to show you in the project that is coming, but for now we are going to try and create a new Sanity project and look at how we can create a schema, publish that to Sanity. We're going to create a new Sanity project using the CLI. Alright, so I have opened my terminal in a new folder here. To create a new Sanity project, you do npm create sanity at latest, enter, and then this is going to ask me a couple of questions. This is asking me if I want to create a new project or I want to add it to an existing project. So for example, if I want to add it to this, I can select it, but I'm going to create a new project. So I'll hit create new project. What is the name of my project? So I just call it example project. I'll hit enter. This is asking me if I want to use the default dataset configuration. So I'm going to say yes. So that is the default dataset configuration, production. Do I want to save it in this project folder? In this folder, I am going to hit yes. So if I want to use a template, the schema created for already, I can choose any of these. For example, they have movie projects, so they have the schema plus the sample data. They have an e-commerce one, they have blog one. So if I also want to create a clean project with no predefined schemas, I can use the one here. For the first one, I'm going to choose a template. I will show you how to also create a clean one and start creating schemas yourself. So I will choose blog for now. Do you want to use TypeScript? Of course, I want to use TypeScript. So this is going to create my project for me, as you can see up here. I want to use npm. So now you could see that this is done. I can now open my project and run npm run dev to start the Sanity Studio. So I'm going to say code just to open this in VS Code, and then I will use the inbuilt command line now. Let me show you the files we have here. I have a sanity.config.ts file, and this is where you have all the project configuration. So for example, the name of the project, the title of the project, this is the project ID. So this is basically a public project ID. Because this is public, you don't need to put it in an environment variable or anything like that. So it is not everyone who has access to your project unless you add them to the project. The data set is set to production here as well. This is where we have the plugins. So by default, they install the desk tool and then the vision tool, as I showed you in Sanity Studio. Here you add all your schema types, right? Inside the schemas, your index.ts file is where we are exporting the schema types. Post, alter, category, and block content. These are all schema types. We are exporting it, and that is what is being passed here, right? This is the package.json file, which is installing the dependencies we need. This is the CLI config file as well. Let's look at the schemas. All schemas are going to have this particular structure. You're going to have the name, the title, and then the type. And then you have the fields, so the different fields of your schema. So you could see that the type of this schema is a document. So that is the base schema type. To show you what I'm talking about, well, let me open Sanity Studio and then show you what I mean. So I am going to run npm run dev. This is going to try and open Sanity Studio locally. So I can open this in my browser. Alright, so now it is going to ask me to log in, right? So this is the beauty of it. It gives you authentication out of the box. So you need to log in to be able to access the studio. So it's the same thing I have with my application as well. If you are trying to access the Sanity Studio in my website, it is going to ask you to log in with the correct credentials. If you don't have your account details, you can't log in. Right? Yeah, so I'm going to log in using my GitHub account. And then because I've logged in before, it is going to automatically log me in, and now I can access the content. It is picking my system's default theme. If I click here, see it's on system. This is what we refer to as documents, right? So documents are the base schema types, and your documents are what is going to appear here. For example, this post, if I try to create a new post, for example, it's going to give me the fields I have defined in my schema. Introduction to Sanity. I can click on generate the slug. It is going to generate the slug. I have this defined field title. This is where I define my title. This is where the slug is. You see that the source of the slug is from the title, right? So a slug is basically like a unique identifier for a post or a product, right? So I can go to product slash a slug name, and it will give me the details of that product or that post. So the type is a slug, the title, the name, options as well, which is specifying the source of that slug, which is basically going to be generated from the title, and then the maximum length. We have other fields as well, like the alter. The type is a reference. We also have the reference type, which is referencing the alter schema. So if I show you the alter schema, you could see that is also a document. You could see that here because it's a document that is also here. Let's add an alter quickly just to demonstrate this. Alright, so the alter name, I'm just going to put my name there, Shadrach. I'm going to generate, and then I'm going to add an image. Because I've added an image, I see the preview to here, right? So my image and my name, which is very cool. I can add a bio to say some bio, make it bold or strong, or you can have other content as well, like links and images and other stuff. Yeah, so now that I have an alter added, if I try to go to posts and I click on this one and I click on alter, you see that it shows the alter here, right? That's because of the type we have here, which is saying reference the alter documents. This main image is of type image. There is an option to specify the hotspot true as well. If I go to the alter I added, so if I click on the crop, the hotspot is basically the area in this circle. So a hotspot is always going to show in your container. So for example, if I put a hotspot on my face, I'm basically saying that my face should always show in whichever container I'm going to use this image, regardless of the dimension of the container, whether it is portrait or landscape or whatever. As you can see here, my face is always going to show, right? So that is what a hotspot is used for. And then we have categories. The type is array, referencing a type called category. The category is also a document. It has a title and then description. Go back to Sanity Studio again, and I click on category, and I try to add a new category. For example, title of this, I'm going to say this is front end as well. And then when I go to my posts, I try to edit this, and I get to the category section and say add reference. I can pick front end. If I have other categories here as well, I can still pick other categories here, right? So this is highlighted in red because if I click here, it's going to say this reference must be published. So that's basically because I've not published this yet. This is in a draft mode at the moment. So if I click on it, you see that the publish is highlighted green, which means that I've not published. So if I click on publish now, you see that it's going to be disabled, which means I've not made any changes recently. It is published. So if I go to the post now and I check, you see the red highlight is gone, basically, which shows that I've published my content now. So if I go to post again, published at, the type is date time, which lets you choose date and time. So basically, you can choose a date and then set a time here as well. Or I can even click on set to current time. The body is also going to be a rich content. It's also going to be a block type. So if I'll show you that as well, body, and then the type is block content. Yeah, so there are lots of types. There are lots of schema types you can actually use. So these are all the schema types they have, right? So you could see array, block, boolean, date, time, document, file. They also have geopoint for geolocations, maps as well. The image, as we saw, we also have a number type for number fields. We have objects. This is a reference. We have slag, string, span, text for text areas. And then we have URLs as well for URL. So you can come to sanity.io docs and then schema types to look at all the schema types they support and read about them. If you actually click on any of this, it is going to take you to like examples. You can check them out to see how it is being used, right? So when I go down here, you'd see that there is this preview also here. So this is a preview for the post, right? So you saw that, for example, for this author, my name and my image is appearing here. This is basically the preview of the author, right? So it's saying that it should use the name field and then the media as my image. So you can have your own custom preview for your document. So the author.name, and then the media is going to be main image, right? So let's try to add some content for the posts and then see. So you can see the title here. I'm going to add an author. As an author, I've not published that yet, but I'll add an image. You can use the Sanity backdrop that I have. So once I add the image, you can see that. So this is how my preview looks like. So the image appears here and then the name appears here. That's basically how you define your schema types, right? So what we're going to do is we are going to try and also create a new project without any predefined schemas, and then try to play around with creating a few schemas ourselves and actually look at how they will appear in Sanity Studio, right? So let's look at how we can create a new project without any predefined schemas and then see how we can define a few schemas ourselves. So let's also try to create a new project with no predefined schemas. See how we can create our own schemas and see how it looks in Sanity Studio. I'm going to do npm create sanity at latest again. It's going to take me through the same process by asking me some few questions again. So for example, I'll say new project. What is the name of your project? I am going to say mini store example. Do you want to use the default data set named production? Yes, I want to use that. Yes, I want to save it here. And this time I'm not going to choose a template. I'm going to go with clean project with no predefined schemas. Do you want to use TypeScript? Of course, I want to use TypeScript because I want to have type definitions. I want to use npm still. So when it's done, I will open it in VS Code and then we will start creating schemas. So as you can see, there is no schema defined, just the index.ts file with no schema here, right? We still have our Sanity CLI file. We still have our sanity.config.ts file here. This is the project ID we are using now. It's still the production dataset. We still have our two plugins, the desk tool and then the vision tool. We have our tsconfig file also here. And then this is the schemas folder where we are going to add our schemas. And yeah, the rest of the files are the default files. So now how do we start creating a new schema? So we're going to create a product schema which is going to basically have the name of the product, the slug, the price of the product, and then the image, the product image, right? And then we are going to try and also add a gallery images field so that I can select multiple images as well. So let's look at how we can add that schema. All right, so I'm going to create a new schema in the schemas folder here. This is going to be called product.ts. All right, and inside here, what do I have to do? So I'm going to first of all do an export constant. So I'm going to call this product schema, which is basically going to be an object. And as we saw, the first thing we need to have is the name. Alright, so the name is going to be product. That's how we're going to call it and reference it. And then the title is going to be product as well. And then the type, this is basically a document. That's basically the base type. So document, we specify the fields we're going to need for this product, right? So fields. So what's the first field we have? Alright, it's going to be the first object. We would still have the name, the title, and then the type as well. So we have the name, the title, and then the type. We want to have the name of the product, and this we want to label it as name, or we could even say product name. And then the type is going to be a regular input field, so the type is a string, and that is basically all we want. One thing we could also add is a description, right? So we could say description and then say enter product name. So if we say that, then let's just call this name, bring the comma here, right? So we could also add this description to add a description to a field. What other field do we need? Again, we need the slug, so the name is going to be slug. The title is going to be slug as well. This is not supposed to be so we want the type, so your slug should be of type slug. Where is the slug going to be pulled from, right? So we add the source, and it's going to be pulled from the name. So when we add the name and then we click generate, it's going to generate a slug from the name field. So we say the source is from the name, and then we want to give it a max length 50. It's supposed to be a number, so 50, like this. So this is supposed to be options. We also need a price field, so we will add another object. Name is going to be price. Title, as we would see on top of the label, we want to call it price. And then also the type, you guessed it, it is going to be a number. And then the next field I want to add basically is the image, the main image field. Right, so I'm going to say name, and this is going to be main image. The title is going to be main image. Let me save this. Add a type. So what's the type for the image? It's image. And I want to say options because I want to enable the hotspot to be able to crop. So hotspot, yeah, like this, and this is going to be true. I save this. Before I add the last field, I want to show you how this looks like in the studio. So I'm going to open the terminal. I'm going to open the terminal here, and then I'm going to do npm run dev. Okay, so I can now open this in the studio. So if I click on this to open it in the browser, this is going to ask me to log in because it's a new project. So I'm going to log in again with my GitHub account. So this is going to authenticate me and log me in automatically, and you could see that there is no document types, right? So the reason we have no document types is because we actually haven't added this schema to the schema types, right? So when you create a schema to be able to see it in Sanity Studio, you have to add it to the schema types, right? So that's what we're going to do now. So we are going to say import from the slash product. So the schema name is called product schema, like this, and basically that's what we are going to add here. And there you go, we have our product here. So when I click on it and I go to add new document, we basically have the fields we added, right? So this is the description, enter product name. This is the title. If I add a product, for example, black, maybe black leather, so maybe black leather shoes, and I click on generate, this is going to generate the slug from the name of the shoes, and we give it a maximum length of 50. So if this is like more, for example, if it is more than like 50 text, for example, it is going to generate only 50, right? And then here, because it's a number field, we could even click here to like add a price, because it's basically a number. And this is the image field, right? So we could browse for images, and then once we add, it's going to show us the image. And then here, because we specified hotspot true, we have this handler, right? So let's go and add the other fields. Now I want to add 2 more fields. That's because I want to show you how to add gallery images, and then also to add like a field which contains different objects, other objects as well, right? The first one we're going to do is to add like a field for rating, because that's much simpler before we add a gallery field, right? So I'll add another object which is going to say name is called rating, and then the title is also going to be rating. The type, so this time with the rating, I want to have the rate itself. So if it is like 5 stars, I want to have the number 5, and then the count. So if maybe 20 people have rated the product, I want to see like 20 as the count, right, as a rate count. Right, so I'm going to basically have 2 fields for this particular rating field. So the type is going to, I don't know why I keep mixing the single quotes and double quotes, right? But yeah, I'll leave it at single quotes. When I save, it's going to change all of them, so it doesn't matter. But the type is going to be an object. Here I am going to have fields, right? So I have the type as object, and objects could have multiple fields as well. I would have my first object, my first field, which is going to have a name. By now you should be getting used to the structure of how to define the schema, right? So the name, title, type is always going to be required properties. So the name is going to be the rate, the title is going to be rate, and then the type is going to basically be a number, and then the next one is going to be the count, right? So name, count, we have the title, it's going to be count, and then we have the type, right? So the count is also going to be a number basically, right? So if I save this and I show you how it looks like, in Sanity Studio, is refreshing. So comes back here, and then I'll see my new field, right? So this is the rating field, and under those fields I have the rate, and then I have a count. So I could give this a 4-star, and then I am going to say the count is maybe 205 people rated this product. Alright, so the last field I want to add is the gallery field, right? So where you can add multiple images for this product. So this product could have like multiple images, so that when you have the main image, you can have like the other images displaying beneath it as well on my website. With this one, I'm going to create another schema type, and I'm going to reference it here, right? So I'm going to have my gallery as a different schema type, and then I would reference it here, right? So I'm going to show you how to create that. So inside schemas, I am going to have a new file, gallery.ts. I'm going to export this as well. So export const image gallery y image gallery schema, like this. And here I need a name, constant. The name is called gallery image, is going to be gallery images, something readable, gallery images. And then the type is basically going to be an image, right? So the reason why I'm creating this as a separate schema, I want to be able to add a new field, right? So I'll go here and I'll say like name. I want to add a caption. So whenever you add an image, I want you to be able to add a caption to that image, which we can use as the caption of the image, or like for the alt property for the image. The title is going to be caption, so don't have to forget this is supposed to be an object. And then the type basically going to be a regular input field, right? So it is string. And then don't forget, we also want to add the options for the image to be able to select the hotspot, right? So let me add a comma here, and then when I come down here, I would say options, options, add the object, and then I'll say hot spot is true. Save this. When I save it, I need to come to index.ts, and then I need to import that as well, right? So that is called gallery image gallery schema. That's the automatic import for me. I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna go back to my product schema. I want to put that under after main image. So after main image, you can select the gallery images as well. So here I'm going to add the object, and then the name is going to be called gallery. I have a title, which is going to be gallery images. The type is going to be an array, because we are going to select multiple images. This is where we reference what kind of document or what kind of schema we want to use for this, right? So we want to use a custom schema we created. So an array of type, and then the name of the gallery we created. This is this, right? So don't forget, this is supposed to be gallery image. So of type, now we specify gallery image, and then I need a comma here as well. So when I save this and go back to Sanity Studio, this is refreshing, and then when I come here, there you go. So we have gallery images. So here you can click on add item, And then here you can upload the image, and you can see the caption field down here as well, right? So if I add another image, let me just choose any image at all. Yeah, maybe this shoe, right? And then I can say caption 1, close this, add another item, upload an image, another shoe, say caption 2, close this as well, right? So you can add as many images as you want together with your captions. And notice that all the changes we are making, right, when you click on review changes, like they are here, like all the changes I'm making is basically here. So let me actually make this browser smaller. Let me hide this and then make this browser smaller, because I want to open another browser with a different user. And the first thing I want to do is try to go to manage project. This is the project, right? The new project. I'm going to try and add a new user to this project, right? So I'm going to click invite members. I'm going to add this email address, which is my other email address. I'm gonna make this person an editor and then send the invite. So I'm going to go to that account and then accept the invite and then join this project, so that I can actually make changes from that side as well, right? Alright, so I just logged into the other account and notice that I have the icon of the other user here, right? And then I'm going to try and bring that browser here as well, and then put this one here as well. So I have two different users on this project. Right, so when I try to make the changes here by removing this, straight away this user also sees the changes, right? And when I hover over the changes, the review changes section here, it's gonna say this user, you removed this section, right? So this is how teams can collaborate. So all the changes that have been made by different users is being tracked here. You could actually revert the changes. So if I click on here, revert changes, it says, are you sure you want to revert the changes? Click on revert changes, and all the changes I made is back. You could see this user also sees the changes are reverted back, right? So when I go here and see review changes, all the changes are made, like all the changes made by the other user. When I hover over it, it's actually here, right? So I'm gonna remove this again. From here we could see the changes here. I'm going to try to publish this, and automatically this button becomes enabled when it is published by the other user, right? This is very cool. This is very cool. I mean, I like the power Sanity Studio comes with. When you make changes to your content, all the users, even your front end, updates in real time, right? And this is very cool of Sanity. I can try to add one more image here. Right from the go, you'd see that the publish button becomes enabled again, because I am making changes again. So if I try to add another shoe here, let me just pick this one and then add a caption, say caption 3. When I hover over this, it's actually saying that the user is actually editing this side, right? And the changes are here made by this person. Caption 3, this is the preview. You can revert the changes. You can publish it from here. It is going to publish. One thing you have to note is that these two instances are running locally, and this makes it very cool. It's running locally. I didn't know this before, that you could have like different local instances running at the same time. Like, so this user could be running it locally on his machine somewhere. I could be running it locally on my laptop somewhere, and then when we make the changes locally, we still see it, right? that is the power the content leaks gives to the Sanity Studio, right? So when I make the changes, it publishes it to the content leak. It does not store this locally, and because content leak is in the cloud, it also updates all the other instances that are using this content, including the front end, right? So next we are going to try and see how we can query data from Sanity. So basically, when you add your content, you add all your schemas, you have your products, your store products, you basically want to be able to use it in your front end application, right? We are going to be using Grok, which is the query language that Sanity actually created, which lets you query data from Sanity. So we're going to use this real data because we have a lot of data here, and we're going to use the Vision plugin, play with how to query the data. We create the query here, and we can copy the same query in a front-end application. It's going to give us exactly the same results we get here, right? We're going to try and write as many queries as we can, just to explore how we can query data from Sanity using Grok. We are finally here. It's time to learn Grok. Grok is Sanity's open source query language, right? It's a powerful and intuitive language that's easy to learn, and I tell you, it is easier than you can actually think of. And with Grok, you can describe exactly what information your application needs, join information from several sets of documents, and stitch together a very specific response with only the exact fields you need. Right, and that is exactly what we are going to be doing. So I'm going to try my best to write as many examples as we can to help you understand how Grok works. But if you also want to check out the documentation, there is a cheat sheet here which gives you like a lot of Grok examples you can actually try. So yeah, come here. When you go to docs/Grok, there is also the playground here which you can actually try sample queries. But in our case, we are going to use the Vision plugin here to try sample examples, right? Let me take you through our data set so that you become familiar with what we have here before we try writing queries to get data. So basically, there are products, right? And every product belongs to a category. So for example, this product, if I open it, it belongs to the women's clothing category because this is basically a women's clothing, right? And there is the price field, there is the name, there is a description, the main image galleries if it has, the rates, and then the count, basically just like what we created earlier. And then when you come to the category, so basically a category has a name, a slug, and then a main image. We have different categories that a product could belong to. And then here is also some featured products that I display on my website, right? I just reference like the top categories, most selling products, and these are all references to products. So for example, these are references to categories, these are references to product, all these are references to products, right? You would see this belongs to the women's clothing, but this is basically a reference. So if I click on it, it will show the details of that category on the side, right? So we are going to see how we can query data and even dereference properties like this that are referencing other documents. All right, I click on Vision. I'm going to delete what we have here, and we are going to start with a very simple query. When you want to define a Grok query, you start with the star. So star basically means get me everything in this data set. So if I click on fetch, that star is going to fetch me every bit of documents and properties we have in this data set. If I want to fetch a specific document, right, I'm going to say star, and then we bring this square brackets, and then we do underscore type, right? So this type is going to specify the document you want to fetch the data for. So this time we want to say for products, right? So we want to say fetch all the data we have for our products document. Although this is a document, but it is actually a type, right? It's a base type, so the type is a document. So we say underscore type is equal to product, and if I click fetch, the information we have here are informations about all our products. The power comes when you want to filter only the fields you need from a specific document, right? So for example, I want to fetch only the name. So for example, this document has underscore created out ID, ref type updated, the category field is here. It's giving you the reference information. There is the description, there is the main image, which is also giving you a reference, and then there is the name field here, right? So I want to say fetch all the products, but don't give me all this information about the products. Give me only the names of the products, right? So how do I do it? I just say name, because that's the name of the field, right? It says name. So I can say give me just the name of all my products. So I do this and I hit fetch, and you see I don't get all the other informations. I fetch all my products, but I only get the names of the products here, right? If I expand this, see only the names. So this is very powerful. You could filter only the properties you need from a particular document, right? So we want to get a name, we also want to get the ID, and then maybe we want to get a type as well, right? So as you saw, we want to fetch the name, you add comma here. The ID is actually called underscore ID, so we want to get a ID as well, and then the type is also called underscore type, right? So when we do this and we hit fetch, we get the ID, we get a type, and then we want the name as well. Now if we want and we don't want the property name to be underscore ID, we could give it a key. So we could say call the key ID, and it should come from this underscore ID. We could do the same thing for this as well. So call this just type instead of underscore type, and then when we fetch it, it's going to say ID instead of underscore ID. This is type instead of underscore type, right? So you see how easy this is. This feels like you're writing a regular JavaScript, right? Where you just give it a key and then the value. We want to go to the categories. So look at the categories. All right. So we want to fetch a category called box, and then we want to fetch. So when we click on it, there is the image. So we want to fetch the category called box, but we want to only filter the name and then the image property out of the box, right? So how do we do that? So I am going to remove this. This time the document is called category. This is going to give me all the categories, but I want to fetch only one category, which is having the name box. So how do we do it? We put an end here. This end is basically acting as a where. So go through the categories document and fetch me the category where the name, like this, is equal to box, right? So this is going to give me the category that has the name box. So if I click on this, this is going to, because I have this and I'm not adding any property name, it's just going to give me an empty object. But if I want to see all the properties on it, I have to remove this and click on fetched. So this is going to give me that's one category with all the properties on it, and we could see that there is the name here, but there is also the image, which is of type image. But then you see this here and it's called ref, which basically means it is a reference. You're not getting the actual image URL here, it is a reference, right? So we could get an image easily, we could get a name easily by doing name. This is going to give us the name. We click fetch, so we get a name box. But how do we get the image URL, right? So with Grok queries, you can actually dereference a reference using an arrow. And I'm going to show you. I'll call the key name image, and I am going to get it from the image.asset, and I want to dereference it. I want to dereference it, so I use this arrow with a hyphen, not an equal to. In JavaScript we do arrows like this, like arrow functions like this, and note that this is a hyphen, not an equal to sign. So when we do this, we want to dereference the asset because the asset is actually pointing to a reference, as I showed you. So let me actually remove this again. Do fetch again. So we have the image and then the asset, which is having this reference. So bring it back, and when we do this, this is going to dereference the assets. Click on fetch. We have this. Because we dereference it, it is giving us a bunch of data about the image, right? So this is what we are looking for, the URL, just the URL of the image. See, there is the metadata, which contains a bunch of information here, but all we care about is the URL, right? You see there is only two properties, the image and then the name. This is what we have here. So we do URL like this. So dereference the asset and give us the URL property. Click on fetch, and there you go. When you make this query search on the front end, you're only going to get this, right? You specify the properties you want and it's going to give you exactly what you specify, right? So let's take this to another level. We want to fetch all products with a price less than 100, right? So when I go to the desk, you'd see that every product has a price. So for example, this is 50. If I look at this is 91. So these are supposed to be included. This is 160. So I want to fetch all products with a price less than 100. So let's see how we are going to write that query. All products with price less than 100, right? So it means that the type is going to be product, and then we want to say price. So instead of equal to, we are going to say less than 100, right? Less than 100. And we want to get the name and then the price, just the name and then the price of that product. So let's click fetch, and there you go. So these are all products with a price less than 100. So this is 56, 91, 54, 99, you could see here, and then the other ones. Now let's do like a much complex query. So for example, if I go to view products, I see all my products, and if I want to view one product, I can click on it like this, and this is basically saying products slash 3-in-1, that is the name of the product, using the slug. So this is going to give me all the information about the product, right? But I want to also filter out the exact information I need. I don't want to get all the references and all the underscore stuff on the product. Let's go back here. The type is still going to be a product, but here is where we see slug is equal to, and here we specify a slug, right? So we are going to specify a slug here, which I'm going to copy and paste. All right, so on your front end, you're actually going to determine that from the product, but here I'll put the name of the slug here, for example, inside the object. Let me pull this here. I want to get all the properties, but dereference all the references I have for this product, as well as dereference the asset and get a URL from the images as well. As you can actually do object spreading here, right? So I can do 3 dots, so I can say dot dot dot, which is basically saying give me all the properties on this product, but I don't want underscore ID, so I want you to name it ID. I want you to name underscore ID as ID, and also I want to get a main image URL, right? So I'm going to do main image. So we do main image like this, do dot assets, and then we dereference and get a URL. It's supposed to be URL like this. We also want to dereference the category, because you remember the category is a document here, and on the product we are referencing the category the product belongs to, so we need to dereference the category as well and get the properties we need. So we would say category, and you should know by now we do dereference the category, and we want to specify the objects we want to get from this category field. So we want to get the name. We want to say rename underscore id to id, rename underscore id to id, like this. We also want to dereference the image. We say image, and then we do image dot asset as we did up there, and then we dereference and get a URL. We want to also dereference the gallery images and get all the URLs of the gallery images in a list. So how we can do it is, we want to say it is going to be called gallery, and gallery is a list of images. If it is a list, you specify the name of the field with the square brackets like this, just like we do it for the star here. So we do it like this. So gallery is an array, and the rest of the pattern follows this, right? So I can just copy this and paste it here. So all of the items in this gallery list, we want to dereference the asset and then get a URL. Right? It is as simple as this, and it's very, very easy to understand when you actually read it. It's very, very cool. So when I click on fetch, right, I have ID, I have the main image, I have the name, I have the price, the category is here. So if I open the category, I have the ID, image, and then the name of the category. And then when I check the gallery, there's no gallery images for the product I selected, so I see null here, but I see the main image here. Let me actually look at the product which has a gallery images. For example, this product, yeah, there are gallery images for this product. So I'll get a slug, go to vision, and then replace that with the slug I have here. So paste this here, and then click on fetch, and there you go. Right, so see gallery images, we have 3 images for this product, and I am getting the URLs for them. So this is basically easy than I actually thought. You can actually play with this a lot, or you can check their Grok query cheat sheet here to see a lot of examples from here, right? This is really good. This is really, really good. I am impressed by the Grok query language. That's how you query data from Sanity. So you can pick this, put it in your front end, make an API call, and then you get exactly the data you want and use it in your front end application, right? Yeah, I love Sanity. I've been using Sanity since I started using it. I've been using it for almost all my projects now, so I would recommend you check it out yourself. Subscribe to the channel if you've not subscribed. Hit the notification icon so that if I post a video you get notified about it. Leave comments below, like. Thank you for watching this video. I am going to see you in the next video.